Hello, good morning everyone. Susan Brennan here for Growth and Grace, and my computer decided to poop out at the last minute. It's not loading for me to do a live there, so I'm doing it here, so you're getting a slightly different view of my desk. This is my other side of my desk, has mirrors on that wall instead of the map and the plant over here. So congratulations, you're getting a little mini tour, one snippet at a time of my apartment. Okay, I'm just starting off because I just have been listening to the book Atomic Habits, and it's so good. It's so good. And something that I was listening to this morning really, when something just kind of digs at you and it's a little bit like, I kind of wish I hadn't heard that because now I got to implement it, and it might be easier for me to not implement it. Yeah, that. So that's fine. Hey, good morning, Becky. But it's a really, really good book, and it's a habit that I have been wanting to work on, and I just really felt convicted around this morning. So anyway, there's that. That's not the topic of today's Facebook Live, though. The topic of today's Facebook Live is how to ask for freaking support when you don't really want to. And let me just tell you, that is regularly for me. So we're going to practice together. I have a very tangible example from this. A few weeks ago, I was making a smoothie. I love smoothies, and I get into these kicks where I have smoothies regularly, or I won't have smoothies for like months, and then I'll loop them back in. I don't know if anyone else does that, but I definitely do that. And so I make this smoothie. It's delicious. And then so it's in this little doodad. It's like, you can blend it directly in here, right? So before I unscrew the lid to wash it, I decide I'm gonna let it soak. And because the inside of the lid had a little bit of smoothie on it too, I'm like, I'm just gonna fill it with hot soapy water and let it soak so that when I go to clean it, it's really easy to clean and there's no scrubbing or anything, right? Like, thinking ahead. That felt like a really good plan. So I did that and I let it soak, and then I couldn't unscrew the lid. And I thought, this is really weird. So I let it like totally dry, and I tried to unscrew the lid again, and it wouldn't. And then I was like, well, I wonder what, probably there's just some like juice from the berries or something that hasn't stuck. So I run it under like piping hot water, and I still can't get it unscrewed. And I go through this for like a few days of trying to unscrew this thing, and it's not working. And I live alone with the exception of my cat, and he doesn't help with this kind of stuff. So I'm sitting there frustrated because this thing's sitting on my counter and it's not clean, and I can't get the lid off to clean it. It's driving me crazy, like all of my pet peeves. And so I look at it each day, and each day I'm just like, oh, that's the dumbest thing. Like, who designs a lid that doesn't come off? And like all the thoughts are coming up. And so I decided, you know what? I thought, I'm going to go see a couple friends this evening. They're strong. I'm going to ask them to see if they can do it. They couldn't. So that fell flat a little bit. So then a few days later, it was church. And I'm like, there's a lot of people at church, so maybe someone there can do it. So I walk into church with my, it had been rinsed out, but it was not clean, smoothie container, totally empty, looking a little bit funny. And hey, Leo, good morning. I see you on here. And I walk into church, and I'm just determined. Like, I want to be able to use this thing. Old Susan would have given up and thrown it out. A perfectly good container, and just thrown it out because the frustration had mounted so much and I wouldn't have dealt with it. So new Susan decided, I'm not going to throw out a perfectly good container. Darn it. I'm going to get this fixed one way or the other, even if I look kind of silly or feel kind of silly, requesting, hey, can you unscrew the lid to my smoothie thing? Because I can't. And so I took it into church, and I walked up to the strongest man I know at church, and I said, hey, can you unscrew this? And sure enough, he was able to right away. And so the whole moral of this story is to ask for support instead of being rash with your behavior and throwing out a perfectly good container. There's one moral of the story. The other moral of the story is don't be afraid to look a little goofy or a little silly. I had several people ask me are you on your way to go get a smoothie, or what's the deal with this? And then it was just kind of a funny story. Like, no, I brought it in because I can't unscrew the lid, you guys. Like, what in the world? And so then then it's simply a conversation starter, which as someone who can be, I lean more towards being introverted and not as like naturally outgoing and social. Like it takes a little oomph for me to get there. It's really nice to just have a conversation starter built in. So that's kind of, I recommend that you do that. If you need help with anything, reach out for support. And I will say, another moral from the story, if we want to just keep going with it, is ask for proper support. Like, you'll notice I didn't go up to a tiny little toddler whose hand wouldn't even reach around the top of the container and ask them for support. They can help in other ways, but not with that. So just if you feel like, oh, I asked for support and it never works, or yeah, the one time I reached out, it like totally fell flat. Just notice who you're asking support from. Another example is I have a launch coming up in my business right now, and I'm very excited about it. It's happening in April, so be on the lookout. And I'm aware of who I'm looping in for support with that, because not everybody gets it. And I don't want people who are going to be supporting with my launch, I don't want them supporting with that very key thing in my business if they don't get it. Like, it's not that they're not supportive people. It's not that they don't care, but they don't understand like a launch for an online business. So I don't want to have their constant like, why are we doing it that way? Or, that, I don't know, are you sure that that's going to work? Kind of mentality around it, because that's not supportive. And I know right now in this season what I need for that particular piece of my life, like a business launch. I need people who get it, who can like keep things moving forward, who can suggest other helpful ideas and bring their experience and their expertise to the table. And people who know what works, what doesn't work, people who've gone through it before me, right? Those are the people I'm looping in for support. So when you're asking for it, just recognize who you're bringing in, because it doesn't mean like, even if they're a great friend, they might not understand the scenario you're in to be able to give you the support that's actually going to support you. So I'll give another example. I was going through, you guys know I did a leadership program going on 3 years ago now, and wildly helpful for my life. I'm so grateful I went through it. And I remember there were a couple times in this, thank you, Leo. There were a couple times going through this where it's like a really intensive course, and it brings up a lot of stuff. Like it brings up, everything just kind of bubbles up, all the old wounds that need to heal, and just emotions that maybe you hadn't felt for a while. Like all the stuff is coming up. And I remember one time I was just in it, like I was feeling so heavy and so down and so stuck. Like I didn't know how to move forward, and it took all of my energy to reach out to my group for support. And in that moment, I decided, and someone called me out on this later, so I'll two-part this. In the moment, I decided, I'm going to ask people to send me cute pictures of cute animals. And so I did. I posted, we had a group thread going. So I posted in there and said, hey, I'm really struggling right now, feeling pretty low. Would you please send me cute animal pictures? And I also gave myself the permission to tell them, like, I might not respond to your message, but just know that any message is appreciated. Like, I'm excited to see the cute animals. Super simple, very clear request. And one of the ladies kept sending me baby pictures. And I found myself so irritated because I was like, this is very specifically not what I asked for. Like, I asked for cute animal pictures. Cute animal pictures. At no point did I mention humans or babies. And she did it multiple times. And I found myself so worked up, because when it takes all of your energy to do something and then it doesn't quite go like you'd imagined it going. And so then it's like, I don't have any, like, you feel like you don't have any energy left to manage your emotions to respond accordingly. And so you feel like you just want to react and like, ah, I was so irritated, and I couldn't pinpoint why at the time that I felt so irritated by that. Well, as it turns out, now I can look back and recognize it's because I didn't feel seen or heard. I felt completely just ignored and like, yeah, that's great that you said that, but here's what I'm going to do to support. And so it's really important, had I been aware of that at the time, I wouldn't have posted that in the main group with everybody. I would have reached out to a few people individually and said, hey, struggling, can you just send me a few cute animal pictures? Like, you know what I love. And I wouldn't have made the request from just a blanket, like, everybody, support, come in, here's what would help. Because not everyone's going to hear you. And not everyone's going to support in a way that's supportive for you. So I really want that to land, because it doesn't mean that that person is not a supportive person. It doesn't mean that their heart is not in the right place. It doesn't mean that they don't want to help. It simply means that there's a little bit of lost in translation going on, and that perhaps they feel like they need to be seen and heard, and what's helpful for them would be baby pictures. For instance, in this case, that lady, baby pictures cheer her up. So for her, it felt like a really helpful thing, even though it was very clearly not what I had requested for support. So all that said, the other piece of asking for support, and this is the second piece to that story and why there's two parts, is because then I had one of my friends reach out to me after I posted that. Not the first time, but I posted it twice, like, a month or so apart. The second time my friend reaches out and he goes, checking in, because you're posting and requesting, and we were on a phone call with this. This wasn't texting back and forth. He's like, I'm checking in because you've posted and asked for cute animal pictures a couple times, and I'm curious if that's actually helping you, or if it's just like a diversion technique, like an avoidance technique. And I hadn't really thought of it like that, but he was so right. The support that I was requesting wasn't really supporting me in moving me forward. It was cute, and it like brought a little smile to my face, and there was nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't getting me out of being stuck, because it wasn't real support. It was like, yeah, that would be really helpful if you could just, if you're feeling lonely and someone just sends you like a text once a month, like, that's great, but it's not really helping at the depth that needs help. So thankfully he brought it to my attention, and he's like, hey, so just want to I want to check in, because you've now been avoiding it for a little while and not like really getting into it and actually moving fully through it. So it was a really pivotal moment. He was also one of my friends who was heavily involved in helping me get wrap my brain around moving to San Diego. So just, certain friends can just be there and speak into you in that way. Let them. Even if sometimes it's like, ooh, I didn't want to hear that. Like the book that I just was listening to this morning. I didn't want to hear that reminder, because now it's like, Susan, you really don't have an excuse. Like, just get to it. So anyway, big eye roll there, because it's going to cause some shifts in my life and my habits, which they're good shifts. They're just, it takes a little extra energy to make the shifts in the first place. And I have a lot of things I want to put my energy towards. That doesn't sound like the most fun one, but ultimately it's going to be good. So anyway, that was a bit of a ramble. I'm seeing that, Brent, good morning. I'm seeing that you posted a few things on here. So happy to hear you found your mission. Great job. And I'm glad that you are using your voice now. It really becomes such a simple thing, and we make it so complicated to ask for support. I literally just had to walk up and say, hey, can you unscrew the lid to this? I can't. And then it happened. And it took a few people for me to ask before it happened. So don't give up after one request, and don't expect, don't put all of your weight on one person to fix it. Like, it's not up to someone else to fix it. My little wrap it up reminder. Sorry if that was loud for you guys. It's not up to other people to fix everything, but you can loop them into support while you fix everything. Yeah? I know that could be a whole another topic, and I've lived through that too. So maybe I'll touch on that in another live. But for now, I want to leave you with ask for support for what you need. If you're feeling stuck, it's a great time to ask for support, even if it looks like going to a trusted friend and saying, hey, I'm feeling kind of stuck. I don't know exactly what support would look like right now, but I need support because I'm feeling stuck. Help me. And talk through it with them. Help, come up with some ideas. What could it look like? What kind of support maybe would make a difference for you? And then start taking action on those. But don't just stew in your stuckness, right? It's not a fun place to be, and it's not helping anyone. It's not making a difference for anyone when you're stuck and isolated and doing, I'm going to do it all on my own. I've got this. I'm strong and independent. And you can be strong and independent, ask for support. You don't have to be stubborn and alone to be strong and independent. That was a little bit of nugget for somebody. Okay? All right. That one took me a while to learn, so I say it with full confidence that it's true. On that note, you guys, I'm going to wrap up. It was lovely spending the morning with you. We'll see you next week, Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. Wow, time zone. And until then, keep checking in, keep following, keep connecting with one another, and we'll just talk to you soon. All right, bye for now, you guys.